So November 4th, 2021, beautiful city of the villages in Florida. Some say call it near to heaven. My name is Jong-ho Han. I am the president of Korean War Legacy Foundation, which has more than 1,500 of Korean War veterans interviewed, not just from the United States, but from 21 other countries that participated in the Korean War. We are doing this to commemorate the special occasion of the 70th anniversary of the breakout of the Korean War in 1950, supported by the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, MPVA of Republic of Korea. To preserve your memory, because it's been a long time already, 70 years ago, about 70 years ago, and to honor your service as a Korean War veteran. But also we want to educate the legacy of the Korean War, the war that you fought for the Korean people, which came out beautifully now. It's the 10th largest economy in the world.
Amen.
That small country, and also very substantive democracy in East Asia. So we want to provide this interview, analyzed by the teachers who are working for my foundation, to other teachers so that they can talk about Billy's experience of the Korean War in the classroom when they talk about the Korean War. It's my great pleasure to meet you, sir, and thank you for coming for a long drive with your beautiful wife, Frances.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself. What is your name and spell it for the audience?
My given name is Billy, B-I-L-L-Y.
Yes.
Holbrook, H-O-L-B-R-O-O-K.
What is your birthday, sir?
9/2/31. I'm 90 years old.
You're not cheating. You're not supposed to cheat your age, okay?
That's right.
90.
90, yes, sir. Born in 31.
I don't see any wrinkle here.
No, well.
Did you hide it with your cap?
Not yet. I don't use Botox.
Okay.
No.
What is the secret?
Oh, the good Lord has blessed us. That's the secret. That's all I can say. We don't drink or smoke. We haven't for 40 years. We don't eat properly sometimes, but exercise, and the Lord has a reason for us. That's all.
You don't have to be honest about your food. Where were you born?
Born in East Alton, E-A-S-T-A-L-T-O-N, Illinois.
Illinois.
Illinois, yes, sir.
Now you are sunny.
Oh, Floridian. I'm a Floridian now.
Yes, yes. So tell me about your family background when you were growing up. Your father, your mother, and your siblings.
Well, my mother and father divorced when I was about 3. So basically, my mother and grandmother raised us. And typical, neighborhood we had, all kinds of playmates in the neighborhood. We played outside a lot. We went to school. Schools were closed. We walked to the schools, even to the high school, which is about a 25-minute walk.
What's the name of school, high school?
The high school was East Alton Wood River Community High.
Woodrow?
Wood River.
Wood River?
Yeah, Wood, W-O-O-D-R-I-V-E-R.
So East Alton Wood River Community High School?
Yes, sir. And it was in Wood River. That's where the school was at, but it encompassed about 15 square miles. So.
Right. And when did you graduate?
1949, June of 1949. I was 17.
And let me ask this question. Did you learn anything about Korea from school history class or geography?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Did you know anything about East Asia?
No.
China, Japan?
Not really.
Not really?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you knew nothing about Korea?
No.
Now you are the Korean War veteran. How funny is that?
Well, I know, and see, I graduated at 17 in June. In July, the next month, I and 8 of my buddies joined the Navy.
You enlisted?
And I enlisted in 49.
Why?
There was no work in our area at the time, so we thought that was a good thing to do, get in the Navy.
And travel around the world?
Yeah, a girl in every port.
So where did you go for boot camp?
San Diego, California.
What kind of training did you get?
Well, got the typical normal I don't know how to explain it. It was a normal training and a lot of testing to see what you would be qualified for to do in the service, etc. Ultimately, I don't know why. Now that was after boot camp in September and come back home for leave. When I went back, I was assigned to radar school in Treasure Island, which is an area between San Francisco and Oakland, California. And so I was in radar school there until March of '50. And then I got my ship right there in San Francisco. She was in dry dock. When I got out, they assigned me to the Lofberg, and I ultimately spent almost 3 years on that ship. We after that, we went on to San Diego was our home port, and then from March to July.
What year?
1950. We did this normal operation. Then when the war broke out in July, September of '50, we were on our way to Korea. Our division was.
Right. So, what was your unit? Where did you belong? 7th Fleet or?
7th Fleet.
Okay.
Yes, and we carried a flag, a Commodore, aboard our destroyer, who was an operation of. My little division of us was four destroyers in our unit, but our Commodore was in charge of all the little, what I call the little ships.
So USS Destroyer what? What's the name of it?
Lofberg.
Lofberg.
Lofberg, 759.
DD 759.
Yeah, DD 759.
Why is it Lofberg?
Well, it was named after Commander Lofberg, who was killed during the Second World War. And in an action in the islands, and so they named the destroyer after him. We spent 9 months the first trip over there.
Yeah, before that, can you explain, because many young children will listen to this interview in the school classroom, okay? So explain destroyer. How long was it? How big was it? What kind of weapons do they have it? How many people were there? Things like that.
I'll give some little information right now.
Oh, you got a picture of it.
Well, I got a picture, yeah. We had 6 5-inch guns. We had 2 gun turrets up forward and 1 gun turret in the rear. That was those 5-inch guns. 12 40 millimeters. 11 20 millimeters. We carried 10 torpedoes aboard us at midship because we were for surface action, surface and submarine. Destroyers were anti-submarine. We'd hunt out submarines. And we're 2,200 tons, 376 feet long. We would do 34 knots. And basically, coming and going, we carried 336 men most of the time. 336 men aboard her.
Wow, that's a big, huh?
Well, not like a carrier. She carried about 5,000.
I know, but still, it's a big.
Oh, yeah.
Smaller than cruiser, right?
Oh, yeah, it's smaller.
Yeah.
We would be the protection of the aircraft carriers, the battleships, and the cruisers.
Right.
And when we steamed, it'd be like, looking at our radar scope, it'd be like a circle. All the destroyers were on the outer edge.
So when you left from the United States in September 1950, where did you go? Did you go to Japan or did you go straight
to Korea? Straight to the 7th Fleet. Sea of Japan.
East Sea, we call it, okay?
Yeah.
So rather than calling it Sea of Japan, let's call it as East Sea, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so what did you do there?
Well, we were outside of, escorting the bigger ships, and was helped with the air operations off the carriers. They always, when they had an air operation off of a carrier, they always put a plane guard's duty station. A destroyer would be forward of the ship and aft of the ship. And in fact, was it the first time? No, it was the second time we was over for 7 months. The first pilot went off at 5 o'clock in the morning, a reconnaissance plane, a prop plane, didn't make it. And from that time he went in till we got him aboard ship, 7 minutes we got him off board ship. And the admiral sent us a big, nice telegram about that.
So you're saying that the pilot evicted and then you picked them up?
We picked him up. And
that's why you are always front and back of the aircraft carrier.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What aircraft carrier was it?
Well, there was several that we dealt with coming and going, but the one I remember the most, because I had a friend aboard, was a USS Boxer, B-O-X-E-R.
Yep.
I mean, we operated with Jeep carriers, etc., but the Boxer is my best memory of carrier, because being there 9 months, they rotated those ships.
Mm-hmm. So, other than attending the aircraft carrier, especially when the airplanes take off and landing, what else did you do?
Well, if we would be escorted, and we went into not Incheon, trying to think, for escorting like the battleship Missouri. We escorted her into Wonsan Harbor, the second trip over.
Yeah.
And all we did was sit there for 30 days, bombarding every 10 minutes.
When was it?
That was in, the second trip was in June of 1952.
June of 1952?
Yes, that was the second trip over. It was the last 30 days we were over there in Korea, and then we come back home finally another time.
So you stayed in Korea for 2 years?
No, well, we stayed there, 9 months the first time.
Yeah.
Then we come home for 6 months in San Diego.
Uh-huh.
Then we went back and...
So you've been to Korea twice?
Oh, yeah. Total 16 months.
So you arrived in EC in 1950, September, and then when did you left for...
July the 2nd of 52, or 51.
July.
51.
Uh-huh.
We come back home.
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah. And then in January of 52, we went back.
And to
for 7 months.
To East Sea.
Yes.
Why did you, were you ordered to go or did you volunteer to go?
No, we were ordered to.
Ordered.
Yeah, the ship moved out all the time.
And when did you leave Korea from there? 53?
June of 52.
June of 52, okay.
Yeah, and then we were home there for 6 months. My ship was going to go back the third time in February.
Yeah.
No, in March of 53. And we were in San Diego. Well, my enlistment was going to be up in March.
Got it.
So they let me out early, because if I had to go back with the ship, I would just get over there and come right back.
But you were still at the destroyer Lofberg?
All the time.
All the time.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you told me the bombing. When did it happen? Bombing in the first trip or second trip?
Second trip.
Second trip.
Wonsan Harbor.
When was it?
Well, that would have been in June of 52.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, because I was in radar and my buddy in radar, there's 3 islands, as I remember, in Wonsan Harbor.
Yeah.
I and my buddy got to go ashore to work with the South Korean Marines and to spot the firebombing when the ships would shoot inland. What target, if we're missing, or help out that way. We were there for 3 days. Just an extra sideline. It doesn't mean, when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you just do what you're supposed to do and don't think too much about it.
Right. So, what was your role in the destroyer, Lofberg?
I was a radarman.
Radarman. So, can you give me specific kind of mission and duties? When they bombing, did you do what kind of work that you did provide?
Well, basically, the radarman would not do much
on bombing. But
no, we were strictly there to catch any air activity coming at us or surface activity coming at us. as far as radarmen.
And tell me about any dangerous moment that you might have been killed.
Well, we had an incident in Yokohama.
Yokohama.
We were tied up in a buoy out in the harbor. We brought aboard about 10 to 12 recruits to replace some on our ship. And we put them in X division to indoctrinate them in the ship. This one particular day, I was at what I call the midships, right in the middle of the ship on duty.
Yeah.
And up on 01 deck, the first deck up, that we had some of the recruits up there. They were showing them what we call hedgehogs. They were for submarines. Mm-hmm. They would shoot over for submarines. And the fire control people down below had not cut off all the power up there. The two recruits leaned against them. Now, before they did that, I had walked up the port side, talked to a couple, walked across the deck and come down starboard back to my midships. Two of them leaned against those hedgehogs. They were instantly killed. One of them was thrown 50 feet off the ship.
Oh.
Another dropped right there. But outside of that, I don't. Our ship never encouraged or encountered any potential danger. I had a friend of mine years ago tell me, "You remember when that torpedo went under us?" I said, "What torpedo?" I don't remember that. I doubt that because North Korea did not have Navy in those days.
Right.
So I think the guy was drinking something.
What about Russians?
Russians?
Yeah. Any battleship from Russia that you encountered?
No.
Nothing. So
No.
U.S. forces dominant in the sea, right?
We were dominant.
Yes.
In the sea, yes. I know the other countries was basically land deal. But we even controlled B-52 bombers would fly in from Okinawa
Yes.
for runs, and they would ask us, now there again, we would be under voice control if we got any targets. They want to know if we had targets and so forth. I had if you get a minute, I had something interesting about that 9 months. I thought this was so interesting because some of this seems insignificant, but between September 30th, 50 and July 2nd, 51, our ship went alongside other ships underway 174 times. 50 times for refueling. We steamed 79,000 miles without going into port.
Wow.
And of course, we were 65 days without stopping at one time. So we were there over 202 days before we went back home that first time. But I thought that 65 days was a long time and without going to port. But then periodically after that, about every month, they rotated the ships because they had so many ships. And a few ports were Sasebo, Yokohama, and Yokosuka. And go in port for about 5-6 days unless you had to have some maintenance work done on the ship.
But once you are in the water, how long did you stay in the water?
In the water?
Yeah, in the ocean. Once in the East Sea for the operation, how long did you stay there without going back to the harbor? About 45 days?
Oh, normally, yes, but the first time was 65 days because we were one of the first group of ships to get there, and they hadn't replaced us yet coming back. So it was 65 days the first time, but after that it'd be normally, you'd be out at sea about 30 to 45 days, and then go in for about 4 or 5 days. We also got broke away because we had I told you, the flag aboard us. We and one other ship in our division went down and patrolled the Formosan Straits. And, of course, it's not Formosa anymore. But we did that and then visited Hong Kong. That was a side trip we had. But outside of that, we were with the task force all the time. We would escort any time a carrier or a battle wagon had to go into a port, we would escort her. They always put a destroyer with a bigger ship escorting them, because we never know what we're going to run into, really.
Exactly.
But Korean War was different than the World War II, when you had a lot of sea action, battle action. We did our part, and that we had to do, but the Marines and the Army did the better part on land. I remember the one time, and there's the first trip over in about December of '50. We had 2 to 3 inches of ice on our deck.
Wow.
And we'd look ashore and there'd be 1,000 fires. Those Army and the Marines trying to keep warm. At least 1,000 fires. So I took my hat off to those guys, even though I knew I was going to have a warm place to sleep and good food. We do our job, and that was it. So.
Yeah. So tell me about that soft side of your service. Where did you sleep? How was this? Did you take a shower every day?
Oh, yeah.
What was the food? What did you do the rest time, leisure time?
Well, leisure time, we would probably read. There was nothing internet, none of this cell phone business, none of that stuff in the 50s. Basically, when we were on duty, we were down sleeping or resting or getting a haircut, or we always had good food. We always showered every day. No problem there. That's why I said we had the better part of it.
Yes, that's why you enlisted Navy.
That's right.
Smart man.
That's right. I thought so at the time, I'll tell you.
Were there movies inside of the destroyer?
Yes, we had some movies every once in a while, not always, and then they'd trade them back and forth with other ships.
Right. It's like a Netflix in the destroyer.
Yeah.
So, did you see newsreel, the information? Before movie start, there is a newsreel.
No.
No? Just movie right away?
Just movie right away.
Okay. How much were you paid?
I'm going to guess right at the beginning, I was only making probably $32 a month. When I became a petty officer, 3rd class, that went up. But to be honest, sir, it wasn't much more than that. I'll tell you that. It was no great sum of money. If I was lucky, it'd be probably about $75 a month, maybe.
The pay was a lot less in those days.
Yeah. And in Japan, though, it was 360 yen to one of our dollars in those days. Made everything pretty well.
Yeah, right.
I bought a set of an eight place setting of china, Kutani china, and in Tokyo. How I got it aboard ship, I don't know, and how I got it home, I don't know. But we still have that set of china. And to go ashore, we went ashore and did the things what the Navy people do, and do things we shouldn't have done probably sometimes.
So, any episode you want to share with this interview that occurred inside of the destroyer Holbrook?
No, we were congratulated on everything we did. Everything we were ordered to do, we did it. We were excellent in our preparation. In fact, the Commodore and this thing that was put together after the first trip over there, and give all the information on the Commodore and our captain and everything. But to me, it was just like a run-of-the-mill job,
Right.
And we'd be on duty. We'd be watching it and be in radar shack in maybe 4 hours, and then off 8 hours and so forth and that. Sometime it would go to 8 and 8, but they're very seldom. You don't want to look at that radar 8 hours going.
Yeah. So now, that Korea, even though you were not in the theater, in the soil, you knew that Korea was completely devastated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And now the Korea is 10th biggest economy in the world. What do you think about that transformation?
Well, I think it's tremendous, and I'll give the good Lord credit for a lot of it, because I've seen them, like I said, with these Gideons coming out of Korea when we had our international meetings. And it shows the difference between the hardcore North Koreans and the South Koreans, what can be accomplished if the people put their mind to do it. And I take my hat off to South Korea. And Taiwan is the same thing. You know, they've been a going concern. And when you got communism and you got socialism and everything, it don't work. Free enterprise and hard work, and it's paid off for them. And of course, I always said if you want to build your country up, you should go to war with the United States. Usually we leave the country better off than when we started it. Mm-hmm. But South Korea did it on their own with a little help.
With a lot of help.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I took my hat off. I forget how many nations. I think there was 20 nations or more involved in that.
21.
21.
But after the war, Germany sent Red Cross from 1955 to 59. So now we call officially 22. But 16 combatant country and 5 medical at the time. So it was used to be 21 country. And the medical, Italy, India, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Those 5 countries sent their medical team.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like supposedly a United Nations operation, which they claimed it was, but for years they never called it a war, police action.
Right.
But when you have, as far as Americans, I think there's 30-some odd thousand Americans killed. That's not a police action, that's war.
You kidding me?
Yeah, that's right, that is right. And if China hadn't interjected, it would have been over 2 years earlier.
Yep.
When MacArthur went into Incheon and shut off everything with the North Korean, it would have been over then.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that comes along. The United States has been there to help any country that cries out for help. Sometimes too much. We shouldn't be in some of these countries, but we are. So that's another subject. Now that's political. I'm not going to get into that.
That's a good point to make.
We should have never been in Vietnam, as far as I'm concerned, personally. Should have been in Iraq. Mm-hmm. And I know Afghanistan, but I felt the Korean War was the last one that we should have been involved in.
So what do you think is the legacy of the Korean War?
I've never even thought too much about it, sir.
But you know that Korea now transformed, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And become the strongest ally to the United States.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All these other countries, like European countries, where we helped them during World War II, once we helped them, that was it. It's not like Korea was, like you said. She's become a good ally to us. And Taiwan is too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's unbelievable sometimes how long this has been going on with Taiwan, with China. Like I said, we were there in 50 patrolling the straits there, so China was aggravated with Taiwan then, and when it was Formosa. So I'm no prognosticator, so we have to take one day at a time and trust the good Lord to lead and guide us and pray that His will be done.
Okay. What would you say to the young children that will learn from your interview about the Korean War and your service as a Korean War veteran?
Well, I say look at all of these interviews, not just taking one out of context, using them all, because it was a combination thing. Army, Navy, Marines, etc. It takes more than just one group to fight a war. Yep. Even though some have a greater input and than others, it takes them all with the air and etc. So you have to look at it in a broad scope of things.
Absolutely. Think about it. Suppose that North Korea has a more powerful navy at the time. Then the Korean War would become very different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, even after the Korean War, when North Korea grabbed one of our ships, I forget what ship it is now. Pueblo.
Yeah.
We should have never turned that ship over. Mm-hmm. I would have sunk it before I would have turned it over.
But there are so many, Navy crewmen
Oh yeah,
there, so
we had
that
30
they,
or 40 men aboard her, but but I never hear too much about North Korea with the Navy. I don't maybe
no, not many, no,
no.
not at all. So
No.
that's why the UN forces led by the United States were able to dominate in the sea, and that gives a lot of advantage to the armies and Marines and Air Force too.
Even the air, there was no dominance of air. We had the dominance of air.
Yeah, there were some Russian fighter jet,
Yeah.
but still.
It was basically a land war.
Exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
I mean, all the other like Navy or air were to help out to facilitate the land, but basically it was an air or land war.
Excellent. Do you have any message to the Korean people?
Oh, we love you. That's the simplest thing I can say. I've been proud of you and proud to have been there. And like I said, we're proud to meet other ones that were always at these conventions.
Yep.
Very sweet, humble people, caring people for the United States. Americans got a special magic name or something because the world knows. Otherwise, you wouldn't have all these people trying to get in our southern border. Our people here in America, they think it's a bad country, they need to move out somewhere else. I'll help them move. But I had nothing else, so I know that I can help you with, Mr. Hahn.
He's a bad president now.
Now, let's don't get into all that.
Well, I'm not, I'm just making a statement.
Right. So, Billy, I want to thank you for your service and fighting for Korean War. Right?
I appreciate it.
Yeah. What else do you have? What is that? Is that the
That's the ship.
destroyer Holbrook?
Yes.
Okay. Let me zoom in. Oh, looks beautiful. What else do you have?
Now that's why we were refueling from an aircraft carrier then.
Oh,
Those are
I see.
hoses. No, that's the same. That's just
Same picture?
it just shows them. Some of the people from an aircraft carrier sent me this,
Show that to the camera, please.
and here's a little rough sea that day.
Uh-huh. And that was in the East Sea.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you for bringing those pictures to us, okay?
Well, thank you for having us here.
And thank you for coming from long way to do this interview, and thank you for your service.
Well, I thank you, and that's our pleasure now.
All right.